It's June the 28th, 2021, and coming up on this week's episode, we look back on the Styrian Grand Prix, which, despite a result which wasn't all that surprising, still threw up a few surprises. We'll look across the pond to NASCAR and IMSA. We'll look at MotoGP, the World Rally Championship, and throw in a bit of W Series to boot, all while walking through a beautiful field filled with Austrian wildflowers, all coming your way this week, on this week's episode of This Week. Hello then, you lot. Welcome back to the show. Welcome to Austria. Thanks as ever for your comments and your questions, and for hitting the notification bell and hitting the subscriptions. We've got 75,000 subscribers now, if you can believe that. It's pretty amazing when you think about it. Anyway, welcome to Styria. Welcome to Austria. Willkommen auf Österreich und ein Campingplatz auf Fishing in der Nähe von Zeltweg. It's about all the German I know. It was a really fun weekend in Styria at the Red Bull Ring for the Styrian Grand Prix, of course, won by Max Verstappen, Lewis second, Valtteri third, Checo right on his rear wing over the line. Good fun, some interesting strategic permutations through the race. Not an absolute classic, but a really good weekend, all in all, particularly if you're Ferrari after that really miserable weekend at the French Grand Prix. Of course, a completely different type of circuit, not at all like France in any way, really, but that said, a lot of positivity from the guys, considering the leap forward in competitiveness that they had, coming home 6th and 7th. They're now 6th and 7th in the Drivers' Championship as well, so a really good weekend for Ferrari. Was talking quite a bit to Carlos and to Charles, and they said, you know, they really learned a lot over the course of the weekend, and that showed. You know, Charles said he had one of his best ever races, if not his best ever race in Formula One, despite losing his wing on the first lap, and Carlos was really super happy as well. So yeah, lots of positivity at Ferrari at the end of that weekend. Carlos thinking he maybe could have got Lando if he hadn't been held up by a certain Lewis Hamilton. So that was quite fun. Obviously at the front of the championship, the battle raging between Red Bull and Mercedes is a very serious one. You know, do Mercedes have the car to compete? They say possibly not, and they've stopped development on their car. Red Bull saying they have not stopped development on their car. They're going to keep continuing to develop that through 2021. Will that hold them back for 2022? They don't believe so. They're going all in because they saw, and they keep using the example of BMW, when BMW had that chance of the championship and pulled back, looking to the new regulations, and ultimately the new regs didn't work for them, and they missed the shot at the title when they had the chance. So Red Bull going all in for this year, but not losing sight, of course, of the bigger picture for next year either. You know, there's a bit of a war of words between them at the moment, between Mercedes and Red Bull, and little niggles here and there of, oh, are they doing this and are they doing that? It's good old-fashioned politics, isn't it? Good old-fashioned motor racing politics. Drivers getting involved with it as well as the team bosses. So we'll see if anything comes out of that, but it's all fun and games. And a really good battle between those two. You know, it's not a big gap. Even if it is a couple of tenths of a second, it's not a huge gap. It's not insurmountable, particularly when, you know, one of the drivers involved in this is a certain Lewis Hamilton, who has been here, has done it, has run World Championship campaigns through his whole career in Formula One, and yeah, will be there, I'm sure, until it is mathematically impossible for him to win the championship. He won't give it up. So yeah, lots to sink your teeth into from a championship perspective. Also interesting, you know, the talk that we had coming into Austria about Valtteri and George, and would George take Valtteri's seat next year, and George having an absolutely brilliant weekend in Austria without that really sort of sickening, heartbreaking retirement. Could have been 7th or 8th in the Grand Prix just a brilliant drive from George, which is showing not only his steps, the steps forward that he's making as a driver, but also that Williams are making, that car could be that competitive. And of course we get to go again this weekend for the Austrian Grand Prix, same track, one step softer tyre, so it'll be interesting to see how that pans out. Daniel Ricciardo, miserable Saturday for him. It was looking better on the Sunday, made loads of places up, then had an issue with the car, dropped him back, but still he's struggling with that car, needs to get on top of it. Sits massively in arrears of Lando Norris in the World Championship. So yeah, Daniel really needing to get on top of that car and just gain some confidence out of it. He thought he had after France. It all seemed to disappear again on Saturday for that first race here in Austria. And he'll be hoping he can kind of pick it back up again, obviously, into the second race, because he was so full of confidence on Thursday when I spoke to him, and then after that just kind of dropped his confidence level as the weekend went on, and it's sad. It's really sad to see. Aston Martin, there or thereabouts, they kind of know they're about 9th, 10th, 5th fastest on their day at the moment. Certainly with Stroll, if Seb can sort of get it all figured out as well, they're about there. But can't really make any bigger strides forward than that. Fernando's coming into his own over at Alpine. He's having a great time. He won't be doing FP1 at the Austrian Grand Prix, though. Guan Yu Zhou announced this morning will be taking his seat. The Chinese driver, who is, of course, leading the Formula 2 standings, will be doing FP1. Actually, loads of 2020 F2 drivers are going to be. I think Ilott is doing a run in FP1, and then add into the mix Tsunoda and Mazepin and all of those F2 gang. I think there's something like 6 of them, maybe 6 2020 F2 drivers. Am I right? I'm probably wrong. Something like that. Anyway, over at Alfa Romeo, coming into the weekend, Kimi said needed to sort out qualifying. He didn't sort out qualifying, and that held him back, because with a brilliant strategy and a brilliant drive, he came home just outside the points. If he can get his Saturday fixed, great. Giovinazzi looked fast all the way through the weekend, didn't hook it up in qualifying, then got turned around on the first lap, and his day was over from there, really. And it all came down to the contact between Leclerc and Gasly, because again, AlphaTauri had a really good weekend. They were looking really strong, really solid. And as Gasly just moved, he was trying to take the slipstream of the cars ahead. Leclerc was behind him, going for the outside on him. It's a little racing incident on the first lap, but because of the fragility of the front wings and because of the tyres being the way they are, a tiny little contact like that, front wing's gone. Rear left has a puncture, and when it let go, it just tore that rear left assembly apart. So Gasly out on the first lap, absolutely galling for him, after a very, very strong weekend once again for AlphaTauri. But Yuki Tsunoda back in the points in 10th. Mazepin and Haas, quite a little bit of fun there. They gave him a little spinner, like in Inception, the little spinning top thing, to kind of take back the meme and embrace it and make it his own, to sort of stop people from digging him with it. So that was quite fun. He had I think a better weekend, just trying to learn the car, just throwing everything at it really in the practice sessions, FP1, FP2, FP3, tried crazy setups on the car for all three. None of them really worked, so went to the base setup for the race. Mick Schumacher is increasing with his confidence all the while, so it's coming. It's really starting to come for those guys, but they've got a car that isn't going to be developed, isn't going to be competitive. There's not a lot they can do other than really fight with each other. It's going to be a tricky one for them. And everyone always says I don't talk about Sergio Perez enough, so I will talk about Sergio Perez a little bit more, who, look, once again, a slow pit stop by Red Bull, which we don't expect, robbed him of the chance to ultimately get where he needed to go. But it did take him a long time to overtake Lando Norris in that lead McLaren. It was 11 laps. Had he got past earlier, might the chances have opened for him to contest for the win. The team felt it was the quicker strategy to be on that soft tyre at the start, but just couldn't quite put the move on Lando. But that shows a lot about how far McLaren have come and how far Lando has come. 7 out of the 8 races this year, Lando Norris has finished in the top 5. That is astonishing. Just incredible run from McLaren, from Lando. And Checo's right in the mix as well. So it's really good. I'm loving this season. I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens this weekend at the Austrian Grand Prix, of course, on the same track as the Styrian Grand Prix. It should be good fun. Should be really, really good fun. Any other news? Yes, Pirelli are bringing new tyres to Silverstone. There we go. And the Turkish Grand Prix is back on the calendar as well, in place of where Singapore was supposed to be. So I think it now goes somewhere. Russia, that's it. Sochi, then Turkey, then Japan. And speaking of Turkey, confirmation over the weekend that Formula One will move to St. Petersburg. Well, say St. Petersburg, it's about as close to St. Petersburg as this track is to Vienna, i.e. not a lot, or not very, but about an hour away from St. Petersburg, kind of like saying Silverstone's close to London. But great track, looks really fun. Tilke reckons it's the best one he's ever designed. Just waiting for the comments now to flip up. Oh no, another Tilke circuit. He has designed good circuits, Turkey, belter. Malaysia, belter. He's got some good circuits under his belt. So let's wait and see. But it looks like a good track for the new home for the Russian Grand Prix. Any other news from Formula One? Don't think so. I think that's it. I found a seat for this bit. It's hot out here. 30 plus degrees today. Woo-wee. Let's go to NASCAR. 2 races in Pocono. Saw late drama in both, actually. Kyle Larson losing an almost certain win. I say almost, it was. He dominated with a last lap tyre failure. Absolutely galling for him. It allowed Bowman to come through for the win. Then on Sunday, Kyle Busch stretched his fuel to win despite being stuck in 4th gear. Now, ironically, and we talked about it in the last show, Denny Hamlin, who still hadn't won a race this year, thus hasn't gained automatic promotion to the playoffs, was on for the win. Bam, needs to refuel with 2 laps to go from the lead. Absolutely galling for him. When is he going to get his win? It eludes him. He's had the chance in the last 3 races, but or the last 3 weekends, I should say, and just not falling for him. But he does still lead the championship chase, so if you don't get the automatic 16 qualifiers, he'll be first in line for that playoff place. But 2 great races at Pocono for NASCAR. Look at this, see? Told you I'd found a chair. It's not just a chair, it's a throne. Let's go to IMSA now, where Ticknell Jarvis and Bomarito took Mazda's first win of 2021 after what was a thrilling 6 hours at Watkins Glen. All 7 DPIs toughing it out, battling it out. It was a proper thrilling, proper exciting race, as IMSA so often is. Great result for Mazda, great result for IMSA, once again showing that it is just a scintillating championship. Oh look, train! Choo-choo! In the WRC, the Safari Rally returned to the calendar for the first time in almost 2 decades and was won by Sebastian Ogier, but he had to fight for it. He was at one point 2.5 minutes down on the lead, but fight he did, taking the lead with 1 stage left. Heartbreak though for Thierry Neuville, who had led pretty much the whole thing, ultimately retiring from the event. Tanak managed to salvage third because Takamoto Katsuta took his podium. I think it's his first podium this season. In second, he's been mega impressive this year as the Japanese driver. So great to see him on the podium. Ogier's win extends his championship lead now to 34 points over Elfyn Evans. MotoGP now, and confirmation that Fabio Quartararo is a far better rider than he is a golfer. Talking, of course, about his celebration and completely missing the ball. Not the only person to do that. I'm shocking at golf. Good fun, though. He had a great race at Assen, a dominant win, and it was a Yamaha 1-2, which we'll come to in a minute. Of course, Vinales come in second. Mir third for Suzuki. Quartararo leading Zarco by 34 points. Same points gap as in WRC at the top at the moment. So yeah, the big news though, kind of coming out of that weekend, is the fact that Viñales, who's had a really difficult season on the Yamaha, not a happy bunny at all, has been announced this morning to be leaving Yamaha at the end of this season. That's 1 year early from his contract. It's understood that he will be picked up by Aprilia for 2022. So yeah, that podium on Sunday, not quite enough to salvage that relationship. And finally for today, to W Series, where Alice Powell totally dominated the weekend, and with no racing having taken place in 2020, she's actually got back-to-back wins for the last round in 2019 and the first round in 2021. Pole, race win, fastest lap, never headed, absolute demolition. Alice, her first time on a Grand Prix weekend support bill, I think in 8 years since she was in GP3. Never in doubt, proper quality, Alice Powell. Second place, Sarah Moore, and the first LGBTQ plus racer openly, so to stand on a podium on a Formula One weekend, and in Pride Month to boot. So fabulous result there. Fabienne Wohlwend came home third on the podium. Great to see W Series back racing. Great to see them on the Formula One support bill as well. So yeah, some good racing. Some questionable stuff a little bit further back in the field, but wonderful to see them on the F1 support bill. Wonderful to see the girls back racing. Well, there you go then, folks. I'm leaving the throne behind and making my way back, not only because we're out of things to talk about, but also because it is sweltering and only mad dogs and Englishmen go out in the midday sun, as I have chosen to today. Thanks so much for tuning in as always, and as I said at the top, and as I always say, and I continue to say, and you may think I don't mean it, but I do appreciate all of the comments, and I do appreciate you all watching these little shows. Loads of racing coming up this weekend, as there seems to be every single weekend. Of course, Formula One back at the Austrian Grand Prix over there somewhere for more of the same. Can Max Verstappen make it another victory? Can Red Bull make it another victory? I mean, they look pretty dominant at the moment. Or can Mercedes swing back? Can McLaren find themselves on the podium? And what about that fight between McLaren and Ferrari? It's getting spicy. Great fun, really great fun. Loving the Formula One season, loving all the seasons actually. It's turning out to be a really good year of racing across the board. So yeah, hope you're all well. Keep safe. Keep sane in these crazy times, and I'll see you next week for the next edition of This Week